Hi, this is Dr. Scott Young, and today we're going to get into another piece of NESARA because what we are talking about is the 2024 election issues. We're in August 29th. I always have to look at the date because I don't think about the date anymore. So I want you to think about this because guess what? Trump keeps getting charged by Jack Smith or someone else over the same stupidity of 2020. Why does that keep happening? It's because they have to find another way to interfere in this kind of thing. Let's show you this video. I'm just going to do a series of videos and let you see some of the evidence that they actually say.
National Voter Registration Act says quite clearly that deceased are supposed to be removed from the voter rolls upon information provided to the municipal clerk or to WEC. Okay? Right now, we have 625,000 dead people on the voter rolls statewide, and that number grows every single week. Okay? It doesn't stop.
Wisconsin.
Someday, if you keep the current policy, you're going to have 10 million dead people on the Wisconsin state voter roll. We're asking for those to be taken off.
Okay. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, right? Let's show you another one.
Normally, challenge ballots would be set aside and not counted. And White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany told Sean Hannity this week that the Trump campaign has 234 pages of sworn affidavits from witnesses alleging vote fraud.
They are alleging this is one county, Wayne County, Michigan. They are saying that there was a batch of ballots where 60% had the same signature. They are saying that 35 ballots had no voter record, but they were counted anyway. That 50 ballots were run multiple times through a tabulation machine. That one woman said her son was deceased, but nevertheless somehow voted.
In Nevada, at least 10,000 non-residents were allowed to send in ballots for counting there. And what about Pennsylvania and other states? Well, here to share some evidence is Neil McCabe. He's communications director at Project Veritas. Neil, thanks for your time. So I know your organization and James O'Keefe are known for your many undercover videos. We've shown portions of them over the years. Now, you've received more than 12,000 tips about fraud this time, some from whistleblowers afraid to come forward. So tell us what you've discovered overall.
Well, you know, Gary, we've received, as you said, thousands and thousands of phone calls and emails, and we're sifting through all of them. We have a special team of people dedicated to make sure that we sort of separate the wheat from the chaff. But we do have very important whistleblowers who have come forward. 2 postal workers in Traverse City, Michigan, confirmed to us that late ballots were being collected, sorted separately so that they could be postmarked November 3rd. And these are late ballots that came in after Election Day. Richard Hopkins, who is a mail carrier in Erie, Pennsylvania, he came forward with
Now what we have is actual people who are doing a job, and they're telling you that the post office was doing some of this stuff. They had all the evidence, and you say that there's not enough evidence on this issue?
a similar account. He said that he overheard his postmaster rebuking a supervisor because one of the late ballots that came in was postmarked November 4th instead of the 3rd. Now, Hopkins said he heard this on the morning of November 5th. Now, Hopkins originally spoke to us with a disguised voice and a blurred face. Eventually, he decided he wanted to come on the record with his own name, and so he did that. He also swore out an affidavit, which was submitted to the Senate Judiciary Committee and acknowledged by South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham as being a keystone document in his investigation into election fraud. Since then, Hopkins has received tremendous pressure to change his account, and he endured more than 3 hours of an interrogation from an agent from the Post Office Inspector General Office who was flown in from New York City, Gary, to basically work him over and to quote.
You see what they were doing? They keep working people over to tell them, what they think they saw.
Update, unquote, his statement.
Okay,
This Inspector General, go.
Scaring you, but I am scaring you.
Neil, the Washington Post reported that after that federal interrogation, Hopkins recanted his story, but Hopkins later released a video saying that's not true. So what's going on here? Is Hopkins believable?
Yeah, Gary, I think if you go back to that Washington Post story, you'll see that they have updated their headline and their story to include Hopkins' statement. What Hopkins said is that he was worked over. They gave him fear and anxiety. They told this guy, Richard.
Okay, so we'll skip that one here because you're getting the point here, right? The post office is a part of that as well. Let's do another one.
The fact that what I've read, that they're more concerned with who leaked the footage than what was taking place is disturbing. And I'm here as a resident of Bridgeport, not as a candidate. But any candidate that lost or won should be upset at what took place. And we need a new primary. Everybody was affected. You know what I'm saying? This is for them. This is for the next generation. We got to get the whole administration out and start from the ground up.
A lot of politicians in this state have benefited from this corruption.
So wait a second. This is happening even now for the primaries too? Well, let's go backward in time to Georgia.
These boxes that Rudy Giuliani and the president have described as suitcases are actually purpose-built ballot carriers that are used because they can be sealed.
Yes, Scott. So, and you can see, and they're out in plain sight. So it's not like anything was hidden from anybody. And let's get to 957. And here comes the ballot carriers that we're talking about.
With this man here.
Yes, and they're empty, as you can see.
Right.
So these are the ballots that need to be scanned still, that they're going to start stacking into these carriers.
Now, this is the same room from a different camera angle.
Yes.
What do you see in this picture?
Well, here you have here's some cutters running their work, the flatteners over here getting the ballots prepared, and then up to this corner, this is the press and the observers who are there from the different parties.
The Democratic and Republican observers are right here.
Yes, and doing a great job of looking at their phones.
Now, it is almost 10 p.m. election night. Some of these people have been working 12, 14 hours.
Yes.
And they've just been told that they're going to wrap up for the night. Mm-hmm. So what are they doing here?
This is where they're packing up because they think they're going home. They're packing up to seal them so that nobody can, mess with the ballots when no one's there.
They're securing the ballots.
Correct.
With the idea that they're going to come back tomorrow and count them.
Yes, sir.
But then what happened?
When we found out at our office, approximately 10:30 or so, that they were knocking off for the night, the secretary was upset because we wanted people to work as long as they could so that we could have the results out as fast as we could. So our office called the director of Fulton County, who subsequently calls the manager on site here and says, y'all need to keep on working. So they keep on stacking in here. And again, that's 3 of the boxes that fit perfectly inside that box.
Now, I want you to see what happens here. They're stacking the boxes up. They have people, it's about ready to supposedly leave for the night. Here's what Georgia does. And by the way, Brad Raffensperger says, oh, this is the best, the most perfect election ever. You can go look at his own quotes on this silliness, right? He's the Secretary of State at the time.
She's got the lids in her hands. There, she's finally sliding the lids on.
She's putting the lids on the ballot carriers.
She's doing her best to put the lids on. She's just having a difficult time with this. But again, it's still 10:01. The monitors and press are still in the room.
Carrier box so that no one can tamper with it.
Correct.
Those are ballots that have been opened from their envelopes but have not yet been counted.
Correct.
What she's thinking in this moment is what she's been told by her supervisor is put those away, we're going to count them tomorrow.
Yes. And it's 10:06. The monitors are still there. So this is where you see them slide this box under the table.
Why under the table?
Get them out of the way. They're still walking around doing stuff. They got cords, they got boxes. There's this stuff out of the way. And then you see here, boxes are the exact same kind of box. They just want to get these out of the way to know that these are the ones we got to scan later that we hadn't scanned yet.
At this point, the Secretary of State's office, your office, has called Fulton County and said, you guys can't go home. You've got to keep counting.
Yes,
And so we're about to see what happens next.
correct.
Now, this is the aha moment
Yes,
in Rudy Giuliani's version of
Correct.
the video.
correct.
They're pulling those ballot carriers out that we just saw them put under there.
Correct. About a little less than an hour earlier, with the press and observers in the room. And then you see.
And
that
here they
one wasn't-
come.
Yeah, here they come. And that wasn't even hidden. You could see that on the other side of this table.
And they're all marked and sealed just the way they were when we saw them go under the table.
Correct.
So long story short, they put these ballot carriers under the table because they thought they were through for the day. They were going to retrieve them the next day to count them.
Correct.
Let me ask you this, though. When did the monitors leave?
Most of the Fulton County staff started to leave at 10:30. The press and observers began to leave as well, with approximately 4 employees still scanning. And 10:45, all remaining press and observers left the room.
All press observers left the room and they were still scanning. Seems reasonable to me, right? Here's a funny one.
2 midterm elections, and they are incredibly important. But we also have to look ahead, because you know what? Our opponents certainly are. Right-wing extremists already have a plan to literally steal the next presidential election, and they're not making a secret of it. The right-wing controlled Supreme Court may be poised to rule on giving state legislatures, yes, you heard me that correctly, state legislatures the power to overturn presidential elections. Just think, if that happens, the 2024 presidential election could be decided not by the popular vote or even by the anachronistic electoral college, but by state legislatures.
Okay. Let's answer idiot Hillary's claims. First off, electors are made for the states so that they can accurately represent what the state is doing. They're not just looking at the vote. Okay, he won by 60%, she lost by 40%, whatever. Pick the person, pick the situation, right? And they say, okay, recommend from the state of Vermont whoever is the winner. Okay. Now they're also saying they cannot certify a vote until all of the electors, all of the challenges are taken care of. Now, in states, for instance, like in Oklahoma, in 2016, real interesting statement, very, very red state. Oklahoma went for Trump 92, 94%. I don't remember the exact number, but something like that. In 2020, it goes down to 60%. And yet, almost every other Republican won in Oklahoma as well. So wait a second, why is it down to that level? Again, there should have been ballot issues that were going on, and they're all over the place with this stuff too. And so electorals have to do this. Now then they have to bring it up to Congress. And so the House and Senate have to sit together. The Brunson case actually stipulates and that the process has to occur from January 6th to January 16th. They have to spend time, 10 days, spending time explaining everything, looking over that. They would be able to interview the electors and saying, what did you bring us? Why did you have a problem with that? But Hillary, and see, here's what they want to do. They want to have only popular votes. So what would happen is LA, Houston, Philadelphia, New York City, places like that would overwhelm all the other states, so the only people they'll listen to are on the coasts. Does that sound like a republic? No, it talks about the democracy. Democracy is communism. It's just bully communism. Constitutional republic takes the states, what their needs and desires are, and they have an equal ranking. That's why each of the states only have 2 senators. Now they have a different level of Congress, you know, men and women who are there doing their job with that, supposedly. Okay. But that's what they're trying to say. And they have this crazy statement. But here's what you have to know about Satanists. Satanists have to tell you what they're going to do before they do it. They have to tell you what they have to do before they do that. And they're already telling you before the 2024 election. Look at this one. How do they fix an election in the way that they've done it? Let's just watch this short clip that I made for you here.
23. The net cost of illegal immigration for the United States was at least 150. Did you know that at the start of 2023, the net cost of illegal immigration for the United States was at least $150.7 billion? And in December 2023 alone, U.S. Border Patrol agents took into custody more than 225,000 migrants who crossed the southern border. While illegal immigration is a big problem across the entire country, there are certain states that are hit harder by this issue. With roughly an estimated 11 million unauthorized immigrants in the U.S., you may be wondering where those people are spread out across the country. So today on Across the Globe...
Wait a second. Do you catch the number of 11 million? So how do you help their way of doing a vote? Well, you have people who are not legal residents in the country. I cannot walk into France and go and vote in France. I cannot go to Spain. I can't go to Russia. I cannot go to Ukraine. I cannot go to China. I cannot go to any other nation because I'm not legal to that country. And yet, in Minnesota with Tim Walz, in California, and every other state you can kind of come up with, they are giving applications for voting issues to the illegals. These are not legal immigrants. There are legal ways of coming into the country. I have no problem with immigration, but you have to do it legally. What they do is they just cross over the border. Now they get driver's license. They have Social Security. They have Medicaid, Medicare. They have all these extra benefits. And on top of that, now you're not even from this country and you get to come here and then suddenly vote, but you don't do it legally. Do you see how they would, this is just a math problem here? This is how crazy that circumstance is. Let's end with this one here.
I couldn't make sense of most of what he was saying, so I couldn't really address him. He just wanted to talk about my vagina. And I'm serious. I'm serious. That was his subject. And I just figured
that's a hard conversation starter.
Trying to convince him that I don't have one would be like trying to convince him that Joe Biden won the presidency. And so I never spoke to him. And you know, it was an otherwise completely pleasant encounter with Trump.
Okay, this was 2020 when we didn't have all the weird statements that have been going on in 2023, 2022, 2023, and beyond with this "what is a woman" response, right? And yet MSNBC does the same thing, just like trying to convince that Joe Biden won the presidency. Wait, what did you just say? See, they know it's coming. And if many of you say that Joe is, we've seen the mask, we've seen Kamala with the ripped up like skin, and you can kind of see it looks like a mask. Like if I did this, you would say, wait a second, that looks funny underneath your chin. Sorry. That's not a mask. That's a real person, right? There's a real person. And if you were going to do a mask, you normally would do it right underneath the line, right, of your shirt. What? Why would you do a mask with here? Because this white hat telling you that's an actor. How can we have a legal and real 2024 election with an actor? Do you know that about that one? Because I certainly don't know how they do that. And I'm going to end with this one. I had this on the same video here. I'm going to bring this up on the screen because I think you guys might like it, because I want you to watch this again. This is called The Veep, a series called The Veep.
The TV series Veep from 2012? Well, the lady vice president, Selena, is uncannily like Kamala Harris. Forget the Simpsons predictions and check this out.
I'm not leaving. POTUS is leaving. He's not going to run for a second term. I'm going to run.
My fellow Americans, words have many meanings, and sometimes instead of conveying our meaning, they can suggest other meanings.
When we talk about the children of the community, they are the children of the community.
Well, we are the United States of America because we are united. And we are states.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
Whatever we have.
Okay, passage of time is actually a communist statement. It is a communist incantation when she says that. So I'm going to back it up just a hair.
Of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
Whatever we have in store cannot be known. The past was once the future. The future is, I should say, unknown.
We got to take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to have to take it seriously.
Obesity is a serious disease, and it needs to be taken seriously.
You need to get to go and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home.
I hope that clarifies the issue, and this can be the last word on those words.
What? And you've heard some of those speeches, and you've heard the Biden stuff, and you heard what the White Hats are doing is showing you the stupidity of them, the utter ridiculousness of this. Do you see it? Do you not see that you can't overwhelm the voting ballot boxes, because all they have to do is throw the 11 million illegals, and those would be real people with a real signature, but it's a fake person. It's an illegal. They cannot vote. They're not allowed to vote, and no nation would let me vote in their nation. If I can't vote in someone else's nation, which never is allowed to happen, why can an illegal come into my country and vote in my election? And who would they vote for? Whoever they were told to vote for. Do you see? It's a selection process. Wake up, people. Understand what this is about. Understand what they're trying to do and how it is more of a movie than you ever realize. This has got to get fixed. I'm telling you. I'm imploring the military, fix this. Fix it now. Thanks so much.